Okay, so what we're doing right now is a brake job on, or front brakes on a 95 Saturn SL1. And first off, we're going to start. These are a lot different than what the Ford is, but these are really common. The style brakes, you find these on everything, big and small. So first thing you're going to do is there's two bolts. There's an upper bolt and a bottom bolt. You do not want to take one bolt all the way out before you loosen the other one. So you're going to have to loosen both bolts first before you take any of them out. And the reason for that is if you take one out, the caliper will move and you won't be able to get the other bolt out. So you want to make sure you do that before you take one out. Now that they're loose, we can take them both out. And some of them like to get stuck in there. There's little slides and what have you, so this bottom one is really difficult to get out. So what I'll do is I'll use the caliper push it out. All right. So one other thing you want to notice here is that these pins are different sizes. So the bottom pin is a small pin and the top pin is a large pin. They won't interchange. Well, the small pin will go into the large pin, but the large one will go in the small one. And so when you're putting back together, you want to make sure you got your pins correct. And then the next step is you're going to take the brake pads off. They just pull off here. The back one here, the front one, you're going to have to maneuver it to get it off. And then you're going to take this bracket off. We can't get the rotor off without taking this bracket off. So we're going to take, I think it's an 18 millimeter right here. And you're going to take off these bolts. These need to be really tight, so it should be really tight when you take them off. And pretty simple. I'm just going to take out these two bolts here. And then the bracket comes off. We have some hardware on here. These little clippy things here, this is the hardware. New brake pads usually come with this if it's a quality set. If it's not a quality set, you got to reuse the old ones. You want to make sure that you take a wire brush and clean them off before you put new brake pads on there. Now we can take the rotor off. You would take off your bolts here and pull the rotor off and put the new rotor on. I won't bore you with that, but we are ready to go back together. If you wanted to machine this rotor, you could take it off and machine it. But we're going to put this all back together, so we got to figure out how the bracket works. Threads are in the bracket, and there's a hole in the knuckle. So right here, we're going to line up the threads in the hole in the knuckle. And get them started. And again, when you tighten these down, they need to be really tight. This is a really important part of the brakes. This bracket, for some reason, if these bolts aren't tight, will get loose and cause you all kinds of trouble. So you want to make sure these are torqued down really tight. All right. Then we got our hardware on there. We're going to take our brake pads, and you have to look at the curvature of the brake pad and the curvature of the rotor. You want to make sure that that goes in there correctly. You don't want to put it on this way. Curvature is wrong. Also, our squealers. These are kind of like brake sensors. They make noise, these little metal tangs here. When the brake material wears off, the rotor will scrape on that and make a screeching noise so that you can know that you need to do your brake shoes or brake pads. And so that needs to be at the bottom because it's going to pull it away. If the rotor's spinning this way, it's going to pull that tang away from the brake pad, and then it'll make some noise. You don't want to push them in. So we're going to put the back one on first. Make sure the squealer's on the bottom. This front one, or the outside one here, has to go in at a 45. If you try to put the bottom in first and then line up the top, it won't because the bracket's in the way. So what you'll have to do is you have to turn it at a 45, kind of come in at this direction, and then get top and bottom in together, and it goes right in just like that. You're going to use your tool on the caliper to spread the piston, and we're going to get that piston spread out. Make sure that's all the way spread out so we can fit it onto our new brake pads. And we're going to line this up right there, and we're going to get our pins. Large pin goes on the top. We're missing a boot up here, but it'll be all right. And then the small pin goes on the bottom. You got to line your boot up so that the pin will go in there. And then you're going to tighten those down. And I like to get them so they're together. Make sure I'm not cross-threading anything before I go all the way down tight. These ones need to be tight. You don't want to strip them, but they do need to be tight. All right, and that is front brakes on a 95 Saturn SL1, and that is easy breezy.